It was the protest that brought Sydney to a standstill. Thousands marching across the harbour bridge. Despite the rain that come from all over the city and beyond.
We just wanted to protest about what's going on in Gaza at the moment. There's too many deaths of young children, too much starvation.
It's a sign of the turning tide.
I mean, look at that. That's a lot of, I know I've just said 90,000, but when you see it as well, it's pretty impressive.
Of the opinion in this country, and it's a sign that people aren't going to put up with it anymore.
The choice of location was intended to send a powerful message.
Concern for the starvation of the Palestinian people expressed in Sydney on our famous bridge. That'll go right round the world.
The New South Wales Jewish Board of Deputies expressed disappointment that the protest was allowed to go ahead on such an iconic landmark. For almost 2 years, protesters have marched nearly every weekend in Sydney. This time was different.
If this is your first march for Palestine, welcome. Everyone from everywhere is here.
Among the protesters was WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange. Many have been moved to march for the first time by the images of suffering in Gaza.
The starving children of Gaza cannot wait another day. End the violence.
There are growing numbers of us who are Jewish, proudly so, who say this does not represent us or who we stand for at all.
For some, the sheer numbers of people turning up was overwhelming.
I can't look at the crowd. I'm not crying. I can't. Thousands have braved this weather, the courts, and the warnings of the New South Wales Premier Chris Minns to be here today.
That's what makes me think it wasn't authorised. Warnings of the thing. And look, this is a really interesting conversation. I mean, we could stay here for a few minutes if you want. We'll go back to the story, but I'm intrigued by listening to a lot of American commentators and how that, like Republicans under 50 are now against, quote unquote, what Israel is doing. Republicans over 50, different thing. And then obviously the left is very concerned with the genocide going on, concerned. Like Mehdi Hassan said in the weekend, he got accused of being a black and white, being a black and white conversation, and he just said genocide is a black and white conversation, my friend. I'm sorry, but it just is. And this is going around the world. We'll get to the end of this, and we might have a bit of a chat anyway, even though it's not part of the planned program.
Their message is the loudest it's ever been. They are deeply concerned about the level of human suffering taking place in Gaza. They want it to stop, and they're calling on the Australian government to act now.
There was confusion as police sent text messages to protesters on the bridge, telling them to stop and turn around.
Hi, Sergeant James here. Can you turn around? Yes, okay. Oh, Sergeant James just texted me. I should turn around, apparently.
Yeah, we all got to turn around, all 90,000 of us.
50 reasons. A short time later, it was announced people heading to the city could walk back over the bridge to avoid a crowd crush at the northern end.
We had to scramble, we had to make snap decisions. It came very close to us having almost a catastrophic situation.
Thousands more protested in Melbourne. Marchers tried to walk across the King Street Bridge, but were turned back by a line of police officers.
You see there, though, talk about civil disobedience. I mean, they've closed the bridge down anyway. Because obviously, line of police, the bridge is now shut. So they didn't get to walk across it, but their civil disobedience has probably done in part what they wanted to, which was create an issue to bring attention.
And good to see, the cops allocating hundreds of police hours to, stand on a bridge so people can't walk across a bridge rather than, solving some crimes or something. Great allocation of resource.
But were turned back by a line of police officers. In Adelaide, hundreds gathered at Parliament House in the city centre. A day for ordinary people to make their voices heard. Nabil Al-Nashar, ABC News, Sydney.
So I thought about this today, actually. And look, to be honest, we've known this for a long time. But when you just kind of finally get a thought that solidifies your thoughts, and it's like, if you don't acknowledge what's going on in Gaza at the moment, there are still some people saying there's no starvation. If you don't acknowledge that now, if you don't see or say about that now, you are willfully ignoring it. Like there's no debate anymore. And yeah, I'm sure you've seen around the place that that Green Beret, we featured him last week, who's come out giving the examples of what's going on, and that just tragedy of a story where he's holding up the photo of a small Palestinian boy who kissed him on the hand, who then within a few minutes of doing that was shot in the head by IDF snipers and stuff. So yeah, it's if you're not, let's not even get into the politics of it with someone. If you're not at least acknowledging what's happening, then it's willful. You're willfully ignoring what's going on. Clint?
Yeah. And it's taken so long for the sort of the Western political elite to wake up to it. One of the first times I was on with you guys, early last year, we were talking about this, and it was already horrible and unjustifiable. And they had Netanyahu over in Congress, and everyone stood and applauded for him. Rounds of applause, and now they're all starting to realize what they've been applauding. And I think it's telling that that was ABC, wasn't it? Had a Arab reporter covering it. It's not so long ago that any coverage of what's happening in Palestine from an Arab was, not trustworthy, right? And so I think that the center of gravity on this conversation has shifted, but only because of the immense human suffering that is occurring, and it's taken too long. And to think that even saying anything about this was getting kids kicked out of university and deported from countries and branded Hamas lovers, and now you can have 90,000 people walk across the Sydney Harbour Bridge and acknowledge this and truth, and find it can be covered in a way that isn't horrible and frames anyone who objects to what is happening in Gaza as a terrorist.